Hello, people. Brennan here. I want to really step up my vlog game because I'm not getting the phone for you. You're just gonna knock it off the bed again. Birdie always gets what he wants. So I wanted to talk a little bit about. My friend asked me, do I have? She's a writer. She gets tired of writing about issues. I want to be part of the action and actually do something. And maybe if I had any suggestions for volunteer work, etc., etc. Yeah, I always think that there are a lot of great opportunities for cis people and transgender allies to come out and show support. A few really great feeds to follow that will keep you abreast of transgender news are Transgender Law Center. They're excellent. The Sylvia Rivera Law Project, it's based in New York, also really excellent. I don't recommend Transadvocate. They tend to involve themselves a little bit too much with identity politics for my comfort. And they get a lot of their stuff from Tumblr, which I don't really. I have a lot of problems with getting your gender theory from Tumblr. But they can be a good source. They really kept abreast of how TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists, affect trans people. Hi. I really think the most effective way to enact change is like you can do it within your own industry and such. Like if you work in healthcare, you can go out of your way to find out information about how to make healthcare facilities and healthcare in general more comfortable for transgender people. There's a lot of resources about that out there. There's like workshops already out there that are in the public domain that you can do with your coworkers. You can suggest that the next like diversity seminar or like staff training be about transgender issues. Healthcare is an extremely important place where we need advocates because even just simple things is saying, hey, I have friends who are transgender and it's come to my attention that having only M and F on our intake forms makes them feel really uncomfortable. Can we possibly put an other with a line to explain, or maybe just like a T, or just as a separate box so they could more fill that out, or not have it at all. We're a dermatologist, or not have it at all. We're a dentist. Like, it doesn't really matter in this form of medicine. That's a really great and effective way. If you work in education, that's another good thing to do. You can get involved in diversity initiatives and make sure that they include trans people when you do anti-bullying stuff at the middle school you teach at. Make sure they're talking about trans people too, because that's really important. And those are really great ways to to advocate for us in the industries that we do get a lot of discrimination and misunderstanding from. There's always lobbying. If you live in a state capital or near a state capital, there are always people who are down at the Capitol lobbying for legislation. It's really fun. I recently got the opportunity to lobby with Trans Equality Texas, and they're a group similar to Equality Texas, but they focus specifically on transgender concerns. And a friend of mine who does lobbying for Planned Parenthood, anytime there's important legislation going on, she goes there and just goes door to door and talks to all the different offices of all the different council members and state senate members, and just speaks her piece. And that's awesome. It's super empowering to be in that space and to just go around and talk to different people in the legislative house, like, hey, here's an issue that you might not know a lot about. Let me talk to you for a little bit. Obviously, it's a volunteer thing, but it can definitely be really fun. I know you said you get tired of writing about the issues, but I just want to say, cis people writing about transgender issues, like advocating for us, is really, really important. Like, the fact that, like I mentioned in my last video, the fact that John Oliver got up on national television and was like, yo, transgender people need help. That's so huge and like monumental. And those are the people that people are going to listen to. Like, I feel the same way with feminism. You know, I don't feel comfortable spearheading feminist conversations anymore because I'm not in a female space. I don't live life as a woman. I don't experience what women go through, so it's not my conversation. But my place is to go talk to men and be like, yo, you're sitting here saying that like street harassment isn't a problem and it's like, you know, it's a compliment and, you know, da 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 da. But like, here's my experience. Or they say it doesn't happen at all, and it's like, hey, I lived in a female space for X amount of time. These things stopped happening like when I stopped looking female. What does that tell you? You know, like you can go and talk to your own community and pass it forward. So I don't think there's anything like wrong with just, you know, choosing the pen as your weapon. I think in a society where our media is so polarizing and does cater to an agenda, it's the people who are writing outside of that agenda and getting their stuff out to communities that's really important. And I know that Ashley, this is the person who asked this question. Baby, he wants like a cucumber. I'm gonna give him one later. No wonder I have like panic attacks all the time. I just a bird in my head. Yeah, so Ashley, specifically, I know you're involved in the nerd community and you do a lot of writing about women in video games. And that's fucking rad. Like, what you're doing is super important. It's also really dangerous, and I give you fucking props. Like, so few women are in nerd communities, and female-identified people are in nerd communities, and I know my experience of trying to get into comics as you know, as an adult woman appearing person was really hard. I was condescended to a lot, made to feel like there was an insincerity in me being into these things. I dealt with that in the punk scene all the time. Women are the ones who get accused of being posers and just being there because their boyfriend listens to it, like, you know. And, like, that's super detrimental to the scene, and it keeps a lot of girls not feeling at home in punk rock, which is, like, a boys' club. But, yeah, I think, like, you could go a long way with what you already do with your writing about video games and like comics and stuff, because there are trans characters starting to pop up in comics, like the new Batgirl, she's trans. I mean, like, I know you're right about media, like Sense8. Sense8 is just fucking like just blew the top off of like trans representation in television. Like, fuck Orange Is the New Black. Like, I know it's great that like Laverne, like I love Laverne Cox, but like that character at this point is a tertiary character whose like defining characteristic is that she's transgender. The character in Sense8 is amazing. She just like happens to be trans. She's also like a hacker. She's super smart. She's a lesbian. Like, she's like a whole person, and that's like the first fucking time I've seen that on like national television, or like, you know, mainstream stuff, which is just amazing. Like, so that's like fodder for writing. My partner plays Magic, and as far as like tabletop gaming goes, that's one of the most progressive ones. They have a character who's specifically agender, and they have a character whose background is that she's a female-bodied male living warrior. Or wait, maybe it's the other way around. I know there are trans characters in Magic, and they've been written that way. And Rosewater has a lot of great stuff to say about gender in the Magic universe, and making that space a safe one for people who are transgender, gender nonconforming. Because here's the thing, and this is why I thought the character in Sense8 was so fucking cool, like Nomi, is because a lot of the trans women I know are huge nerds. And like, I don't know if that's because in like their previous adolescent space there was a lot of social problems and they tended to like, because I was that way. I was, you know, a recluse with the internet, and I think a lot of us are that way. Like I'm really into sci-fi. I'm really into like the whole concept of like postmodern identities and creating your identity on the internet and stuff like that. And I know a lot of other trans people are too. So that's why I just like, just her being this huge like computer nerd, like hacker is just like so apt. Like so many. I'm just thinking of like all the super rad like computer programming, like, you know, hacktivist trans women that I do know, and it was just so. I'm like, I'm smiling. It's awesome. So yeah, keep writing. Like, absolutely keep writing. And if you work in a creative discipline, you know, I'm working on some stuff right now, trying to bring more visibility to my community. If you work in a creative discipline, you know, if you're a photographer, go photograph some trans people. If you're, you know, if you write, do an interview with somebody. You know, like Ashley, you write about video games. Go find people who are making video games that include trans characters. Do not go anywhere near the ARC project. That's BS. But anything else, like, yeah, like check it out. Interview those people who are making those waves. Get them out there. Like, I get really bummed out when people think that their voice isn't enough, because your voice is enough. Like, I'm not out there on the streets because like. I'm afraid I'll get hurt sometimes. Like I can't afford to, especially right now with gay marriage just being legalized in Texas. I don't really want to be around the Capitol. I feel like Black people probably feel the same way with all like the Confederate flag riots going on. It's like something's gonna happen. Like, and so there's a lot of times where I can't afford to be out there advocating, even within like my professional space, and I'm in like food service, so like. But that's the other thing is like I'm in food service, and like to my knowledge I'm the first like out trans person they've had at their company, and it's a learning experience that they're learning, because I'm like, you know, super like gracious and candid about this shit, and you know that they're learning how to handle this. They're learning, you know, they ask me like, are we doing okay, and I'm like, you guys are great, like, you know, and it's just. Yeah, you can find ways to advocate for trans people in whatever you're doing. Like, it doesn't need to be something that like you are 100% like going out of your way and like doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Although I think it's great to like leave your comfort zone. Like, I absolutely recommend that everybody in this country get an experience lobbying, because that is something that will actually make you feel like you do have an effect on local politics, which is like estate politics, and that's really important. And to kind of, I know that like even before I came out, I really, just because I was young, I felt like I didn't really have a voice in my own country and in what goes on. And now to a certain extent, I feel like I have less of a voice. But having the opportunity to go down to the Capitol and walk with like in a group of, you know, 4 other trans people, just, you know, here comes the fucking circus, like coming through the Capitol, like we're gonna talk to everybody and you're gonna see that we are just like your aunt, your uncle, your friends, like we're just people and we just want some things. So, and you might not even know what we want, like, so, and that's the other thing that is like taken me a lot to realize is sometimes people just don't know. Like, they're not being malicious, they just don't know. And like, that's hard, because it's like, to me, it's like, I didn't know. Like, I went to Catholic school in like, you know, small town Massachusetts. Like, I didn't know anything about transgender anything or queer anything until college. Like, and some people don't even go to college, so it's like, where do they learn? They go find it. They go seek out people like them. They use the internet. Like, I don't know. Yeah, you can find the information on like what trans people need, and then just kind of like forward it elsewhere. I think I'm just like repeating myself at this point. So this is actually going to be a really short video. It's 14 minutes. Yeah, I think that's like a record. And I'm going to go because I can't listen to this bird anymore. But have a wonderful hump day. I'm going to go fucking swimming today and probably get stared at a lot, but it's Texas and it's hot.